Hi everyone, welcome back to the Nature Talks podcast. Today we are here with our friends Shivani and Anna. How are you guys doing today?
Good. Wonderful to be here. Thank you.
So it's really great to have you here finally. We've been trying to plan this podcast in some time. And you want to give our audience a short intro about yourself?
Sure. I'm Anna. I live here in India, in Delhi, actually since nearly 13 years. I say 15, it feels a long time. And I'm from the Netherlands, but I'm a citizen here in India. And this is my country right now, so I feel at home here.
Nice.
And hi, I'm Shivani. I met Anna last year as part of StrayBuddy and taking it to my locality. And for the last 6 months, I have joined her full time, taking StrayBuddy forward. In a past life, I've done a lot of things, but I think brand consultant should cover it.
And how long back did we meet?
I had actually moved back to Delhi in 2018. And I had wanted to really reconnect with the city. I realized that living in Bombay, maybe Delhiites can relate. It's a very uncomfortable feeling being from Delhi when you're in Bombay. And you realize there is a perception about your city, but I'd never really experienced it that way. And I realized that Delhi was so green and had so much to offer. And I think part of that exploration led me to New Delhi Nature Society, treks and walks. And my mother's also someone who's very big on birding and quite a gardener and loves trees. So wanted to, bring this to as many generations in my family, because I found
I think you had come with your mom for the fireflies workshop.
Yeah. So my mom always talked about how there's not enough fireflies, and that was a big part of her childhood. And I'm really grateful for Viren to even discover them in the middle of a city and, take us there. So that was a very special birthday for my mom.
Oh, it was the birthday that day.
Yeah.
And we met at the Canine Carnival. Before that, when we were organizing that.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm grateful for Shivani connecting us, basically, for the Canine Carnival that we organized as part of the StrayBuddy program and with NDNS.
So you guys are with StrayBuddy. I think we should tell our audience some stuff about StrayBuddy, how your journey started over there.
Absolutely.
What's happening over there.
Yeah, so a very brief overall introduction. StrayBuddy is a program of the NGO All Creatures Great and Small, and this NGO is founded by Ms. Anjali Gopalan, who is a renowned human rights and animal rights activist. And she's also the founder of the NAS Foundation and has done great work in the animal sector. She's a member of the Animal Welfare Board of India. And I've been volunteering with her for 5, 6, 7 years maybe now. And then actually I realized that an animal sanctuary is at some point full. Any shelter gets overloaded. And I was realizing that it's probably because the dogs may not be well off in the area where they are, actually. So maybe we can work on that. So StrayBuddy started in my own colony, and I worked there. And then it scaled up from 1 to 10. And Anjali Gopalan has been really supportive. I think we have a community adoption model that we are now developing. And that's what StrayBuddy does, basically.
So we were discussing before this podcast about the dog records at StrayBuddy. I think, should we tell the people about what the dog records are all about? Shivani?
Sure. Okay, thanks, Viren. So before I actually come to the dog records, I just want to take some time to explain what community adoption is. I feel like a lot of people feel that dogs on the street belong to no one, and that's not essentially the case. In our philosophy, believe that the animals and the trees around us belong to us and the community. And that's where the community adoption approach really comes from. Whereas a community, we try and take ownership of the dogs around us. And they're not just dogs, they are our non-human residents, and we get to know them, and we've known them, and we want other people to share in the joy of knowing these community pets that we have. And the dog records are a part of the larger methodology that StrayBuddy comes up with, but it's a very powerful step that we took, and a decision that we took to give each of the community dogs a sort of Aadhaar card, an identity, a record that we create, which is a dog profile that is can be found for all the localities that we work in by the area, where all the dogs have their names put up, along with information around on last when they were vaccinated or sterilized, who their caregiver are, or any other information. And that really helped our caregivers to learn about the dogs in their areas and take that information forward and start, busting a lot of cultural myths that we have around our indies. So the dog records play a very big role in, giving them that identity of, not just any dog, but, Tiger from Saket D Block. And I think that is essentially a big step that we took, and communities really appreciate that approach.
Yeah, I can tell a little story around it if you like. It's full of stories because we work with so many people and so many dogs. But the dog records actually led to the following. There was a neighbor in my colony who used to come home late from work, and he used to walk from the car where he parked the car to home, and then encountered these dogs that he wasn't very comfortable with, and he always felt that they were kind of barking at him. And at some point he got to know that all these dogs have names and all these dogs are on a record, and he saw the list of the name, and he identified that dog that was, in his opinion, always like a bit hostile towards him. And he saw this dog's name, and his name is Tiger. And so he tried it next time. He said, let me call his name. So he just found out, and he next day he actually said, hey Tiger, how are you? Oh, calm down. I don't know what he said. Hindi probably, like, kya hai? Yeah, koi baat nahi, just calm down. And Tiger was like, do you know my name? Okay, so you're probably known you're part of the family. And Tiger, since that day, was less hostile, or what he called barking, approaching him in that kind of way. And so he was actually on a speaking term with the dogs. And so he said, more people need to know about this. Yeah. So we have these dog records on the public website. We share the link. Everyone can see it. It's not just that we share it on WhatsApp groups amongst the caregivers, but it's known to everyone, and everyone can look them up on the website with photo and with the name, etc., and know that this is Tiger in my lane. Like that. And then we started making with youth posters about, call my name and I'll be your friend, or I'll wag my tail. And we hung up these posters so that these records became a foundation for a lot of awareness activities. Yeah, it was really nice. A photo competition we did, drawing competitions we did.
And since you're talking about the fear, you and I had one story where I've met children or even adults who have been scared of dogs, but they've never had a bad experience. It's because they were taught to be scared of the dogs.
Yeah, I see that.
We see parents telling children all the time to stay away from the dogs, don't play with the dogs, don't feed the dogs, they might bite you. So something which hasn't even happened, the child gets afraid of that, and then when they have the fear from the dogs, then it makes the dogs more hostile towards them.
And dogs are animals with faculties, like a lot of they can sense with their senses more. They smell much better. They can see better. They can hear better than us. And they can smell pheromones. They can smell hormones. They can smell things that we can't. So they actually sense that fear. Because you're radiating. If you fear hormones we talk about. So they radiate. We're radiating that. The dogs, they react to it. Unfortunately, and you can turn that around if you do activities and with the children. I don't know if you want me to tell another story.
You can. My suggestion is just carry lots of dog biscuits.
Yeah, that's fun, but I think more than that needs to be done. And in schools, I think we need to raise the children in such a way and educate them on body language of dogs, etc. And dogs communicate with each other. And the way they communicate with each other, they also communicate with us. And we don't always interpret or see it right. So if the children start learning all that body language, the fear may go. And the fear is the first thing that I think we need to eliminate. And I think that we did quizzes with youth, and there was one girl who participated finally in the quiz, but initially before that, her mother had called the RWA very angry and said, my child cannot even cycle in my neighborhood because the dogs are chasing her. And we got into a conversation, and the quiz was happening, and I somehow invited the girl, and the girl came and she won the quiz. She was so dedicated. She really liked it. And when we did the award ceremony, she told the story that she was cycling another day with her friends. A dog came from a public park or one of those colony parks up to them barking. I said, what did you do? So she says, I learned now to see what the body language of the dog is. I stopped, I froze, which is a dog's signal of calming. So she froze, she turned her head, and I taught her a couple of calming signals that dogs give. She gave some calming signals to this dog. The dog actually, I asked her, what did he do? He stopped barking. He looked at them and then turned around and walked away. So they could continue cycling.
Yeah.
And so this is a great way of coping, I think. It's a great way of knowing what to do and how to interpret.
Many children, as many more adults, need this training, especially here around us. We've had some cruelty cases, and I think that's all coming from the fear which people have.
I believe so, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot that we can do about it. And you can make it fun. It can be, this quiz it was a lot of fun to work with the kids on this too. Yeah.
So, also with StrayBuddy, you're doing some other activities around Delhi, right? Or how much do you plan to cover?
Right. Am I taking
Yeah,
that?
you
Okay. So I think StrayBuddy is now moving more deeper south. So we have expanded towards the Alaknanda area, starting with my locality, where and I think every area in the city is going to be different, and across cities we're going to have different attitudes and perceptions of people towards this approach, because I think fear is a part of it, but I do think there is a lot of validity to a lot of opinions that people might have. For example, a lot of the street dogs can be dangerous. They are not maybe vaccinated. There is a genuine threat of rabies. And there are a lot of misinformation campaigns that also go around that add to this very natural fear that people can have, that can be taken away with, the kind of activities we want to do with people young. You want kids to not be scared of birds either, right? And there's some kids who can go over the fear, overcome it, and be able to interact with reptiles. I'm still afraid of a lizard, and I have no reason to be, right? So a lot of irrational things as propaganda are put out there. So when we do work with different areas like Alaknanda we're trying to expand into, we do encounter different attitudes. So we do need to work very specifically to the area and understand what their needs are. And that's where the StrayBuddy approach really comes in, because it's about creating that community and starting with the knowledge that they have and building up on those gaps. And we are hoping that the way I was able to turn my RWA around, we would be able to do that for neighboring RWAs as well. And just to give you an example, up until I think early last year, neighbors would freely feel free to maybe throw things at us from their terraces if they saw us feeding dogs. And now we have a program poster that goes out almost every month with a little activity note of what StrayBuddy volunteers have been doing and what great work has been done by us over the last year in the vaccination drives that StrayBuddy helped organize, the water bowl drives that we are organizing in the summer for our dogs and community animals and the birds in general. We do plan on getting more youth activities started and hopefully be able to grow to a humble, 250 housing societies in the next 3 to 4 years, which is about 10% of Delhi. But yeah, we see our growth happening pretty fast. I think RWAs are also really excited about having a partner who understands the human side as well. And I do want to bring that up, and maybe Anna, you can tell a few stories around that.
Yeah.
And you can also tell us something about community adoption, I think.
Yeah, because what it is exactly, it is actually coexistence, right? It's the model of coexistence, and we need to realize that we are part of nature, right? We are all coexisting. I mean, we are existing because of nature. We are nature. So the dogs in our neighborhood are part of that ecosystem. Then, if you go back so many thousands of years, they've always lived with us. Actually, they adapted to us. And that's why we, in India, see a very unique situation that I think we should rather be proud of, where we actually have that symbiotic relationship, you can say, that coexistence still going on. And yes, there are excesses, and yes, there are issues, and yes, there are risks, and that we need to manage. Like when you drive and go into traffic, you'll have your driver's license, you have your driver or your good car, and you manage the risk of having an accident. It can still happen, but you can do a lot to prevent that. And you have your rules and regulations in place. Same here. I think the sector also has to, we all are responsible for, our own area to manage those risks in a safe manner. And there are ways of doing it. And that's what actually StrayBuddy would like to show. How the community can take ownership and responsibility for the non-human residents, and how the human welfare, the residents' welfare, and that's why RWAs, actually this is a program very well tailored to RWAs, how residents' welfare improves if the animal welfare and the environment around us is healthy and safe. And we can manage it. So yes, we have to control the population that is growing, out of hand. We have to do the catch, neuter, return program. Sterilize the dogs, bring them back to their area, and have safe, sterilized, vaccinated dogs. And they will prevent other dogs from coming in. So they're actually also, we don't realize with vaccinations, these dogs have a function. We vaccinate these dogs around us. We actually have a so-called bio buffer around us against rabies. So dogs can actually form that bio buffer for us. So we are actually safer off against, diseases, zoonotic diseases, if we have a safe, the first contact, dogs are living so closely and interacting with us. If they're safe, that is like a ring of,
protection.
A buffer, protection around us. There's so many benefits of having these dogs around us. So I think if we focus on that and take responsibility for their lives, then coexistence is possible.
Can I also just add, part of the community adoption is not just looking at the adoption and the coexistent aspect, but also thinking about what community really means. And I guess animal lovers, caregivers out there who could be listening can maybe relate with the feeling of, being only able to do so much, being only able to feed so many dogs, having to deal with hostility by yourself maybe in your areas, but not also feeling capable to mobilize because there is maybe a lot of hatred or a lot of harassment that might happen in and around, and we see that on the daily. But what StrayBuddy really also helps do is give our caregivers not just a safe space to mobilize, but also a safe space to learn from each other and each other's experiences. And I think that has been a big takeaway as well, to not feel isolated in a challenge, because I know that I have these dogs to vaccinate and sterilize, and I have to figure it out all by myself. I may try and go out fundraise, and we see it all around us. But when we have a platform, and I think that's what StrayBuddy tries to do, we try and bring down the burden that caregivers feel. We try and equally share the burden of re-educating and creating that awareness towards our community pets, and having them see us and see what we see when we see our dogs. It's not a threat. It's not something that's outside. It's a friend. And I think that our dog records build familiarity. They build familiarity with us. And over time, they become friends with the dog just the way we are. And that's really the long-term vision we have. And it can really not be, the challenge cannot be solved without the caregivers being that layer. Because how do you approach a dog that's also more afraid of you than you are probably of it? So honestly, being able to bring it in with love and compassion and giving it that care brings that care back to us multifold. And I think it's being able to help people connect those dots, which StrayBuddy is now trying to do.
Yeah, I remember one really old memory of mine. When I was a kid, I would slyly take bread and other food from the kitchen and go and feed the puppies down the road. So you were also mentioning about one farm, right? So we'll put a link to the farm in our description, where people can check it out. And get guidance about
Yes.
how to help the animals around in your own areas.
Yeah. It's not just a form, guys. Please do check out our entire website with our methodology. All the tools and resources are free to download. Feel free to reach out to us to understand any guidance on how to, push them out in your own communities and start building these groups. And we are always there to come in and support you.
You have a Facebook page, website, Instagram.
We have Instagram, we have Facebook, and Instagram is active as and when there are, certain activities going on. We don't currently have somebody who manages the social media, so we're doing as much as we can ourselves. Sometimes it's more silent, sometimes it's more active.
But we try.
You can see quite a lot of the things that are happening on Instagram with photos. The website is more a resource base. It's a platform where you can find a lot of
to
information.
just capacity build our caregivers. But we're also in the summer, along with our water bowl and vaccination drives, going to be doing some more creative activities. So do look out for that on our Instagram
Is it
page.
StrayBuddy.com?
StrayBuddy.in.
Yeah, StrayBuddy.in. Yes.
Right.
And even in Instagram, it's
StrayBuddy.in.
StrayBuddy.in.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll put all the links in the description so people can check it out easily.
Yes.
Do you have any final messages for the viewers?
I would actually like to touch upon the fact that the dogs are sometimes seen as a negative, mostly as a negative, and how we have now tried to explain the positives of it also. But if there is a dog that is causing problems, do not think that all the dogs are bad, right? So don't generalize it. And there are ways to deal with every problem. There are multiple solutions and interventions possible. If we look at that one problem situation, don't be scared to call us in. We have this method also. We train the groups and the caregivers on, observing the triggers, analyzing the root causes, and then taking interventions. And very often, with very little means, you can make a huge difference in the behavior of these dogs. Though we don't train them, we just see what their needs and requirements are. So we can do a lot. And be positive, don't be negative. I think that attitude is a very important one.
Yeah. And the keyword is coexistence.
And the keyword is coexistence. It's possible. And where it is difficult, then there are ways of dealing with it. Yeah.
Do you have a message for the viewers, Shivani?
I think I just want to emphasize further on how we get to coexistence is really trying to build empathy for the animal and really understand that it's a really tough life on the streets. And this is an animal, if people do learn more about the dog, it's not natural for it to be in this form. It always has, had very positive interactions and associations with us as humans through the course of our coexistence. We could not have gotten this far if we did not have them. When we were farmers, they were guarding our farms and our sheep. When we, were going to cold areas, they were pulling our sleds. Yes, we created technology, but we built them and got them this far. And now we've kind of abandoned them, and it's not something they understand. So I would just highly recommend, to anyone who's afraid, find someone in your friend circle who has a dog and spend some time and just really be able to see that this is a creature that's built to really be our friend. It doesn't think otherwise. It's not there a cat sometimes might just not want to interact, but a dog is actually hardwired to want to be with us and have a symbiotic, positive relationship. And I really want people to try and explore that.
Okay.
That's it.
I just realized one more thing, maybe you can help us with this. Just 2-3 points about the do's and don'ts if you see a dog which you're scared of or don't know about. What should you do?
Do you want to do the do's?
I would actually like to give a little insight in that dog language and communication, body language and signals. I would say, they're the standard approaches that, don't scream, don't run, right? But why is that? I think, first of all, observe dogs on videos, observe what they're doing when they communicate with each other. When it becomes a little bit too scary for them or too wild when they're playing, they freeze, they stand still. So let us also take that clue.
Yeah.
If we freeze and stand still, don't face the dog frontal. That is something that dogs don't do. When they approach each other, they always go in a curve, and then they basically approach each other from, sniffing from the backside, right? So if we approach a dog and we are a little scared of it, just go on around it with a little curve. So learn from how dogs are behaving amongst each other, and actually you'll see that they are also doing that to us, but we don't realize it. And then if we learn how to use those body signals, body language signals that dogs are using to us and to each other, then they'll understand us much better and we'll not have that confrontation. So go around in a curve. Don't look frontally at the dog. Turn your body away, turn your head a little away from the dog. Mostly that is enough to indicate to the dog, I'm not a threat to you. He doesn't need to be scared of you.
No eye contact.
And that's a big thing. And freeze, don't run, don't scream, those things.
That's basics. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, like you said, I think having some treats and dog biscuits sometimes can maybe make a difference. I've usually done what Anna suggested, which is usually keep my eye contact away, give a side of my body, and let the dog know that I'm not there to, in any way encroach on its spatial boundaries. I also sometimes address the dog in a calm voice if I feel, and through my voice they can sense that I'm not a threat. But definitely don't run. Do not scream. They do not like that.
Don't pick up a stone or
do not pick up a
to
stone.
pick up a stone because they know that may hurt. They have had pain in the past, so the association is very negative.
Then they have to defend themselves.
And some run and some attack. So you're at risk, and if they get injured, and they also may anticipate this next time, not with you, but somebody else, they may attack before they get hurt. So you're actually creating a very
cycle,
negative relationship that the dog has with humans. And it may be your neighbor, it may be your daughter, it may be your son, it may be your mate who gets attacked later. So don't threaten.
One suggestion I give to people is pretend to be a tree. The dog is going to come to smell you.
And just sniff and
stand still.
Stand still, don't make eye contact. It's just going to smell you and walk away. Maybe the dog thinks you have some food. Maybe you just smell good, who knows. So,
just engage his curiosity.
They're just going to smell you and go away. Maybe you can show that your hands are empty.
Yes.
Because if you have your hands closed, then they might be curious if you have biscuits or something.
Yeah.
That's it.
Absolutely.
These things should help people. So thank you all for watching. We've reached the end of the podcast. And you can find all the links to StrayBuddy in the description section. Don't forget to like this video, share and subscribe. Share it with all your friends. And catch us next time on our next podcast. See you again next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Rahim.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for having
Thank
us.
you.